Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanastritya naram chaiva narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavate Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Ch Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Reading from Canto 10, Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 84, entitled The Sage's Teachings at Kurukshetra. The Sanskrit of the verse 18. Atapi kale swajana vibhuktaye vivarshi sattvam khala nigrahaya cha swalilaya vedapatam sanatanam varnashramatma purusha paro bhavan. Translation and purpose by the disciples of His Divine Grace, Gaur Sharan and Bhagavatam. Translation: Nonetheless, at suitable times you assume the pure mode of goodness to protect your devotees and punish the wicked. Thus, you, the soul of the Varnashrama social order, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, maintain the eternal path of the Vedas by enjoying your pleasure pastimes. This verse describes the Lord's enlightening people in general, Janasangraha, and his limitation of worldly behavior. Because the personality of Godhead remains always perfect, the body he manifests when he comes to this world is not touched by material goodness. Rather, it is a manifestation of the pure goodness known as Vishuddha Sattva, the same spiritual substance that constitutes his original form. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishnakanvitam Shra He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Devi Pranamami Priye Vanchagalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna, reading the translation again. Nonetheless, at suitable times you assume the pure mode of goodness to protect your devotees and punish the wicked. Thus, you, the soul of Varnashrama social order, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, maintain the eternal path of the Vedas by enjoying your pleasure pastimes. Adapi kale svajana abhibhuktaye vivarshi sattvam kala nigrahaya cha swalilaya vedapatam sanatanam Varnashrama Atma Purushaha Paro Bhavan. And thank you again, everyone, for this opportunity, and also begging for the blessings of everyone. Hare Krishna. so that we can share something which is inspiring to the heart and also pleasing to the Lord and all of you, inspiring in our devotional service. So here in this chapter 84, so we are continuing to see how the pastimes that are happening in Kurukshetra. So the sages are also coming to Kurukshetra because they really were eager to take darshan of Krishna and Balaram, and we see the qualities of the Supreme Lord as soon as they see uh, the sages come. The sages have come to take darshan of Krishna and Balaram, but Krishna and Balaram, they actually get up, they offer respect to the sages. They actually offer water for washing their feet. Basically, they wash their feet, drinking, or they offer them drinking water, flower garlands, incense, sandalwood paste. They offer them obeisances, and they also start asking questions like, how is it that so despite being the Supreme Lord, having such qualification, to have that humility, to be able to uh, ask questions, especially I see, I'm like trying to think about that because there was like Prabhupada always like encouraged that everybody asked questions. And sometimes, like I have seen in myself, that I'm in the presence of my spiritual master, I'm in the presence of senior devotees, I'm in the presence of advanced souls. I'm just in my own head that I don't, and when there is an opportunity to actually inquire, I'm just like completely like blank. I don't know what to ask. And I also many times I would think, oh, what will I ask? It's okay, like it's like there are multiple kinds of. So I'm realizing how actually it's not whether we know or not. It's also like if there is humility in the heart, naturally, when we see an advanced person, naturally it will come like to take shelter of. So the questions and is also an expression of one's eagerness, one's eagerness to have mercy of the advanced personality. Because I have seen that some of the senior devotees that I have seen, they would ask the same question to their spiritual master again and again. Like it's not like they're like kind of trying to tease or anything like that. It's just like genuinely that how can I actually please the Supreme Lord? Like how can I actually practice bhakti better? How can I actually follow your instructions better? They would ask the questions again, like very repeatedly, very often, and I would think like, what's the problem? Like he already answered you once. Like why do you ask him again? But I'm understanding that it is a constant reminding of oneself that what is the purpose of life and how to actually come closer to the surrendering to one's spiritual master and how to follow his instructions better. So it's a constant refinement of the consciousness. So even once we hear, it does not mean we don't need to hear again. So we can actually go deeper. And the more we actually invest ourselves in bhakti and want to go deep, then naturally we will have questions. And we will also, not just because we don't know, rather actually it's a sign of just we want to express our heart to the person, especially to a spiritual master, to senior devotees, that I want your shelter. Like, please give me your mercy. Please give me your blessings. So that is also an mood. So here it's so surprising. Like when I'm reading, I'm like, Krishna, like why is Krishna actually extremely showing that level of respect? Where the sages have specifically come to take his darshan. And the sages themselves are like kind of like they're saying that they will see in the future verses, they will say, oh our Lord, you don't need to do this. We are here to actually take your darshan. But it's that you're like setting a right example by being like this, and then they're very ready to leave. And then again you see Vasudev comes and he's like, really, actually I have some question. Like Vasudev, sorry, I'm not saying, I'm saying Vasudev. Like Vasudev, he actually is this father of the Supreme Lord, and still, as soon as he sees Narada Muni, I have some questions, I want to ask you something. And we see that later in the 11th canto also, there will be a conversation between Vasudeva and Narada Muni. He will be asking so many questions. And we see when Prithu Maharaj, when the 4 Kumaras come to Prithu Maharaj, they ask so many questions. And Yudhishthira Maharaj, when he meets Narada Muni at a different time at the Rajasuya, he asks, he asks questions. He tells Narada Muni, actually I have some questions, please just solve that. And I'm thinking, like, these are people who have so much control, like they exercise control in their life. Like being a king is not even, it's nowhere close to being like a president or anything. No president can come closer to being like a king, because these people really had a lot more power, and they ruled in a very different framework. I'm not saying they were autocratic, but still the ability of they were very less independent. These presidents are all controlled by multinational corporations and all the people who are giving them money. It's not like that. The king was not controlled by anybody else in that way. The king did not have to dance to the tunes of all the people who are sponsoring them or anything like that. They were not controlled by third parties. These kings were like really independent in the sense of trying to execute dharma. Despite having so much control and so much wealth and everything, what it takes to actually humbly submit to when they see a saintly person, like that really needs a strong character, and also the humility, basically, that they are constantly eager and they can differentiate what is material and what is spiritual. They play the role, but they don't become too caught up in that role of being a king. So that's what is the beauty of a devotee, an advanced devotee, that they play the roles that needs to be played in the world, but they don't get absorbed in that too much that they forget that what is the reality. So that is the balance that a devotee gradually develops. Is they continue to do everything that is required in the world. At the same time, in their own hearts, they are sheltered. They are very clear. So what is that real permanent thing that they have to be connected to? So we see in very sincere practitioners that they balance it very nicely. So we have great examples here on the call. Anand Bihari Prabhu, like so many of you, I'm not seeing all of you here, Venu Madhuri, what is inspiring is like having that clarity, because it's not very easy to play the role of a father, play the role of a wife, play the role of a daughter, son, all of these various identities that a devotee has, to balance all of that and to keep the spiritual aspect of I am eternally a servant of my spiritual master and Krishna. So keeping that also very much in the front and focused. So that is the ability of a devotee. They are like those cameras which are zoom in, zoom out. So they can zoom in into life, do what is necessary, zoom out, be kind of like, and not completely taken or like carried away by the immediate circumstances. So that ability to zoom in and zoom out is the qualification of a sincere practitioner that comes with one's stability in devotional service. So here, that's what the sages, and looking at the activities and the behavior of Krishna and Balaram and the sages and Vasudeva, this is the thought that came to my mind. The verse itself is philosophical. Basically, the verse is saying that how the Supreme Lord appears in his own pure mode of goodness and performs pastimes. So, like the sages are saying that you are not obliged to actually stand up, welcome us, and wash our feet and glorify us. You're not necessarily, you're not expected to do that, because we have come to actually take your darshan. So that's why they are saying Swalilaya Veda Patam Sanatanam. By his own pastimes, the Lord actually maintains the eternal path of religion, of the Vedas, because he is not just telling this needs to be done, but he also is exhibiting those very qualities by his own example. He's teaching others. So Swalilaya Veda Patam Sanatanam, that by enjoying his pleasure pastimes, by actually coming into this world, he's not like being touched by the material modes. He is in pure goodness, and he engages in various pastimes. And the reason is that he actually wants to maintain the eternal path of the Vedas. And he is Varnashrama Atma. He is the soul of Varnashram. That's what I was mentioning, that people play so many roles in this world. So we cannot take those roles super seriously. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told, Naham Vipro Nachanarapatir Napi Vaishyona Shudro Naham Varni Nachakirnapatir Namanasto Itirva Kintu Prodyan Nikhila Paramananda Purnamrita There Kopi Vartuhu Padakamalayo Dasa Dasa Dasa. That how we are not anything of these roles, rather the servants of the servants of the servants of the servants of the gopis who are serving Lord Krishna. So that is, he is the soul of Varnashrama. So he is the soul of everything we do in our lives, and that's what is Krishna actually showing by his personal example. So Varnashrama Atma Purusha Paro Bhavan. So basically the points are the Supreme Lord appears, but when he appears in the mode of goodness. He is not contaminated by any other material modes, and the reason he comes is to protect his devotees and punish the wicked. And also he is the soul of the Varnashram, and he, by his own pastimes, he maintains the eternal path of the Vedas. So these are the words, these are the points that the sages are glorifying. Looking at the Lord, his behavior, they are glorifying how he is doing everything for everybody's benefit.
What did he say? Oh, we can't hear.
We can't hear you, Prabhuji. Is it just us?
It sounds like somebody is doing japa.
Okay.
They need to mute.
Okay. So thank you, everyone. Are there any thoughts, questions that you want to share?
Hare Krishna. By Krishna's arrangement, just last night I was listening to Vaisheshika Babu's class on the same subject exactly. And someone was asking, suppose you're a junior disciple and you've been assigned to speak, and there are elders, sannyasis, exalted devotees in the audience. What do? Do you refuse to speak, just like what's that time, Madura and Maitreya were there, and he deferred to his elder to answer the question, So Vaisheshika Babu said, well, this may be, you do it as a service, not because you're being exalted, and then you ask their permission to speak, and you ask their blessings to speak, and you consider that, that they are exalted. Just like he gave the example, Shukadeva Goswami spoke Srimad Bhagavatam, and he was 16 years old, and his spiritual master was there, and his father was there, Srila Vyasadeva was there, and there were so many elders there. Everyone was elder, yet they deferred to him, and they saw this effulgent, what do you call physiognomy?
Yeah.
He said, just like the girls were bathing and Shukadeva Goswami came running by, and they weren't embarrassed, or they didn't try to, hide themselves or cover their bodies, because they saw he's completely pure of heart and innocent by his physiognomy, whatever that is, by seeing his effulgence, by seeing the quality of his character, by looking at his face, they can understand this is an unusual, and ultimately we're not the body. So people are grappling with the same thing. You know, what do you do if you're speaking and there's an elder present? You know, do you not speak? Do you refuse to speak? Do you defer to the elder? And I should say, ask their blessings, their permission to speak, and do it as a service to them. Just some thoughts on the subject. Hare Krishna, Gaur Sharan Prabhupada. Makes sense. Have you had an experience of speaking sometimes and there's elders present?
Our elders are present at all times, Daddy Purusha Prabhu.
Thank you so much.
Did Gaur Sharan ask your blessings? I think he did, right?
He always does.
Yeah,
I heard him.
great.
And of course, we do pray. When we're saying, what should I say? What should I say? That's an interesting question, but asking Krishna, what do you want me to say? If you want me to speak, I'll speak. If you want me to be silent, I'll be silent. That is our posture, you know, not that what I have to say, what I should think about, what I should say. Lord, I'm here on your behalf.
Krishna just told me to tell you, Adi, that you're as old as time.
I'm eternal. My body is old. My body is 77 years old now, but personally, I am old. But we know that it's not just age that it empowers one to be able to speak the truth. The tiny little children have spoken clearly, simply, but precisely, exactly what we're only trying to repeat what we heard from Guru and Krishna. Saraswati, we said Chakravarti, he was a college student in London. He followed the devotees back from Harinam to the temple, and they told him, all right, you clean the stairs, because they were preparing to receive the guests for the Sunday feast. So he's like, I'm a college student, clean the stairs. And he said with one finger, he was just, sarcastically, and Mother Saraswati, Malati's daughter, was only about 5 years old, and she came running up the stairs, and she said, that's not how you serve Krishna. You serve Krishna like this. She grabbed the rag out of his hand and she started cleaning the stairs. And he said, it just broke my false ego that even the children are understanding, what's appropriate and speaking to me with authority. And he said, I became a devotee at that moment. I was defeated by a 5-year-old child. So it's not just age. Anyone can speak the truth.
Thank you, Adi Purusha Prabhu. Gail, followed by Vijay Krishna, please.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, this is just a comment. Gaur Sharan Prabhu, you were saying that, why a person would ask about a question that they know the answer to. And sometimes it's that you want to hear different angles of answers, especially if you want to hear an answer from a particular person, because, oftentimes there is not just one answer to a question, not that one question doesn't fully satisfy, not that one answer doesn't fully satisfy the question, but there could be several full answers to that one same question. It's like, Dharma Maharaj gave the analogy of sharpening a pencil. When you sharpen the pencil from different angles, you get a more and more refined point. Hare Krishna.
That's nice.
Thank you, Gail. Vijay Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, thank you very much, your most kind. Dandavat Pranams Prabhu. What is the name of the speaker, if I may ask?
His name is Gaur Sharan Das.
Oh, yes. Gaur Sharan Das Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I have a question, and my question is based on the following. In the translation, the mode of goodness is being mentioned, and my question is, if I adopt the mode of goodness for me to live my life, what kind of protection will I get? That is my question.
If you live by mode of goodness, so the protection comes from practicing the instructions of the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master. So, once someone asked Gurujan Prabhu, what is the easiest way to get established in the mode of goodness? So his answer was, the easiest way to get established in the mode of goodness is to follow the instructions of one's spiritual master. So just by following it strictly, we will naturally come to the mode of goodness. And because we are practicing the instructions under the shelter of a spiritual master for the pleasure of Krishna, then naturally, Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, Bhagavati Uttama Shloke, Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So the protection that we get is bhakti becomes fixed in our heart when we practice devotional service under the instructions of the spiritual master, and gradually when we raise, so tada rajastamo bhava kamalobhadayasche chete ete ranavidam sthitam sattve prasidati, that we'll become situated not just in the mode of material mode of goodness, but we'll become situated in the spiritual mode of goodness. Rajastana, tada rajastamo bhava means at that time when the heart is cleansed and we have developed attachment for Krishna, so the passion and the influence of the passion and the ignorance will actually reduce. Tada rajastamo bhava kamalobhadayasche. So how they will go away? The desires to enjoy, kama lobha, the desire to enjoy selfishly and greedily. So the greed and lust, there are those two qualities which are the manifestations of passion and ignorance. Kama lobhadayasche, starting with kama, krodha, and all of those things, all of them will naturally reduce. Cheta ete ranavidam, the cheta, the one's consciousness becomes touched, transformed into pure mode of goodness. Sthitam sattve prasidati. So we'll become fixed in the pure mode of goodness. So that's what the sages of Sutta Goswami is saying in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that we'll become fixed in bhakti, and gradually with that continued practice of devotion, we will also be able to overcome the lower modes and get situated in the spiritual mode of goodness. Everything starts with service to devotees. Shushrusho Shadadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchihi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punyatirtha Nishevana. That just by serving the devotees, we get their mercy. And through that, we develop faith. And through that faith in Krishna and in the spiritual teachings and the spiritual master, that if I serve Krishna, everything will be okay, fine. So that is a simple definition of faith. It's not necessarily we have to be irresponsible in life. That is not the idea. But to have that faith, I'll do my best in life in every aspect of my life. However, because I'm trying to serve Krishna and I'm limited, so I'm doing my best. Just because am endeavoring to please Krishna, by His mercy, everything will be okay. They say, like, I think Dhanata Maharaj says, like, do your best and leave the rest to Krishna's grace. So that ability comes. That is, the protection comes gradually. So I'm not sure if I went on a tangent. Is there any follow-up or any clarifications? Hare Krishna.
I have a follow-up, but I see somebody else has their hand up also.
Mathura Nath Prabhu, welcome to our Sangha. Good to see you.
Oh, I finally figured out how to get on the Zoom. I always watch the classes on YouTube, and I thought, let me get out of the mode of ignorance right now and actually just go on the website and look for the Zoom. So I did.
Mathura, from Mathura. Hare Krishna,
Hare
can you
Krishna,
hear me?
everyone.
Mathura, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a verse in the Bhagavatam, this is related to this subject matter, and it said, says that our duties, our dharma, our activity, if it does not provoke an attraction to hearing the messages of Vasudeva, then that activity is useless. Whereas if we engage in devotional service, Krishna arranges, we get a hunger to come to class. We get a hunger to hear from Shastra and Guru and the devotees. So, but if we do not have an attraction for hearing the Bhagavatam, then our activity, our work is useless labor. Useless. So that's
Beautiful point. I had a comment and kind of question about this topic. It seems like some of these very advanced personalities we're talking about, we're asking questions. They're provoking, please speak more. We want to hear more about Krishna. We want to go deeper into the topic. But also, much of the time, they may be asking for other people as well. So there's a thought, this depth of compassion, depth of, I want more depth so that we can explore this. And we want to keep talking about Krishna. We can let's never stop talking about Krishna. So maybe you can talk a little bit, Prabhu, about this asking questions for the sake of others, feeling the compassion for other souls. And of course, wanting to hear more, wanting to being hungry to hear Krishna Katha. Why, how we can increase that hunger.
We do. Thank you, Prabhu. As you just mentioned, we see that phenomena all the time in the Bhagavatam. That so many great personalities, but they start asking, like it is said when Vidura and Maitreya they met. Vidura went to meet Maitreya Muni. He was actually already very advanced, and he knows all the truths in one sense. Still, like when he actually goes to ask questions and meets Maitreya Muni, the first thing he asks is that, oh, my dear sage, everyone in this world is engaged in fruitive activities to attain happiness, but one finds neither satiation nor the mitigation of distress. So on the contrary, one is only always aggravated with such activities. So please, therefore, give us directions on how one should live for real happiness, how to find real happiness in this world. And there, it is mentioned that it's not Vidura's condition. He exactly knows for how to live and what to do in one sense by his own life example. Still, for the benefit of everyone. So he asked this verse that Sukhaya karmani karoti loko natai sukham va nyaduparamam va vindeta bhuyatta tatev dukham yadatra yuktam bhagavan vadena. So please speak to us. What is the truth? How we can actually attain real happiness? Because everybody in this world is busy doing so many activities. But what to speak of happiness, they don't even experience some satiation, like even like some mitigation of distress. It creates new problems and then it goes on. So the same idea that he really wants to benefit others, and also he is also humble because there is a great personality, as Mother Gail was saying, to actually what do you call, like to get a different perspective, and more than that, to also benefit everybody who's hearing. So, Janasya Krishna Vimukasya Deva Dadharma Shivasya Sudukitasya Anugrahaya Charanti Nonam Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya. He glorifies Maitreya, saying, great souls like you actually travel on the earth behalf of the Supreme Lord to show compassion to the fallen souls. So please share this knowledge with me. So encouraging the speaker, exhibiting one's humility, the desperation for hearing that knowledge. It's not that he asks and the body language is like not the mood and the body language. Everything is like there is a real eagerness to actually hear that knowledge personally also. So we see that always in the many times in the pages of the Bhagavatam, the sages, they ask this question, okay, tell us what is the ultimate good for all people in the world, what is the essence of scriptures. So it is said they are also asking for the benefit of everyone. So they say that that we have come to perform all these sacrifices we have assembled here. Like Kalimagatam Agyaya Kshetresmin Vaishnava Vayam Dirga Satrena Katayam Sakshana Hade. The sages in the first chapter of the Bhagavatam, they say that knowing well that the age of Kali has already begun, we are assembled here in this holy place to hear at great length the transcendental message of the Lord, and in this way perform a sacrifice. So continue to speak. So we are very happy that we have got you as the captain of our ship. So please take us to the right destination and continue to speak. So don't just stop, like just speak elaborately about Krishna. So they have this, they exhibit this attitude. This is what is called as how to actually hear and share the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. That basically speaking as well as hearing. How to actually do that, they exhibit through their personal example. The sages are setting an example for us. What is the attitude of speaking Bhagavatam, and also what is the attitude of hearing Bhagavatam?
Yeah, thank you. I can see it. It really, if there isn't, like, pride will really spoil the whole dish. If anybody is trying to be part of it and they're proud, it's like it's not the right. It just spoils the whole thing. There needs to be this mood of humility. And one thing I'm relating so much lately is humility. I need Krishna in my life. I need him. I'm dependent on him for everything. I need to hear about him. And if I'm not hearing, and I'm not feeling that dependence, I'm going to be lost. And so not actually having that need to hear for Krishna, I think it's a way to check in. Like, am I really like, do I need Krishna? Am I really feeling that, or am I okay on my own? Am I okay, doing things on my own by my own strength? So yeah, thank you for bringing up the point of humility.
Thank you, bro. I feel so happy because this is exactly I wanted to communicate for the last 40 minutes. I'm struggling that you put it out in one single line. So I feel so happy. This is exactly was the mood I was saying. Like the same way as you're saying in relation to Krishna, that when someone is before their spiritual master or a senior devotee, I'm looking at my heart like, do I have that desperation? Actually, I need your mercy. I want Krishna. I don't know how to do that. And do I have that desperation? Do I feel that I need your mercy to be able to actually know Krishna, and not just knowing Krishna, to be able to actually practice, to be able to come closer to Krishna. So that desperation, that I feel like if that is not there in the heart, then it's very difficult actually to experience sweetness in bhakti. So that literally I'm so happy you verbalized whatever I wanted to convey this morning. So thank you so much for making it perfect by your contribution.
What is the difference between a desperation and beating yourself up? You know, we've heard before, I'm not the body, yet we're still acting like we're the body. And where do we go from there? Is it, how can we move on with humility without beating ourselves up unnecessarily?
Yeah, so the question is like, what is the difference between humility and inferiority complex, or something like that?
Yeah.
It's a distinct. Adipushpa, would you like to answer?
I know the answer Adipusha was going to give. He said humility is not just I'm fallen. The other part of humility is how wonderful is Krishna. Is that the answer, Adipusha Prabhu? I've heard it before. I need something new.
I can't answer because it's muted.
It's not muted.
I can't hear you.
It's not muted.
It's not. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you said it exactly. That humility just. There was a preacher in Washington D.C., an elderly gentleman. He said, if you have a piece of paper and you want to crawl underneath it to show your humility, that's one thing. But if you just take the paper and lift it up over your head, you're also under the paper. So by glorifying Krishna, that's our real humility. I may be fallen, but Krishna is so wonderful that he's caring for me and leading me and speaking to me and guiding us all, right? So that one-sided humility, I'm so humble, I'm so low, is not a complete expression of genuine humility without glorifying Krishna.
So we'll lift ourselves up by glorifying Krishna. Is that the purport?
Say that again?
We lift ourselves up by glorifying Krishna. Is that correct?
Okay, yeah. Everything is accomplished by glorifying Krishna.
Thank you. Gail, followed by Bhima Kaviraj.
Hare Krishna, Gaur Sharan Prabhu. I was just wanting to follow up when you said that, and we always hear that the result of serving the Vaishnavas is faith in Krishna. Can you spell out that connection for me? How to see that logical connection between service to the devotees and developing faith?
Yeah, this is a verse that we were discussing also the other day, Madhukar. That how in the 16th 16th verse of the chapter 2, Shushusho Katadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchihi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punyatirtha. So in, like, we see how the Bhagavatam says, like, we develop Vasudeva Kataruchi, means we develop taste for hearing, and Shraddha, Sushusho, by the service to devotees. So here Mother Gail is asking, like, what is that connection? Like, again, as Adipurush Prabhu was saying, it's the connection of the humility, because it's a Nicha Gaiva Sadabhati, means how the river flows towards a lower altitude. Similarly, knowledge always flows to a person who has humility in heart. So the same way, when we actually submit and serve a great personality, by their mercy, and because we are expressing humility, so it becomes a better container for knowledge. And when there is knowledge, that means what the real knowledge is, to the ability to distinguish matter from the spirit and to understand our connection with Krishna, the situation, the sambandha again becomes awakened in the heart. Of course, as part of the service, they also hear from those great souls, but the affinity to hear becomes better. So, and that's what we see in the life of Narada Muni when he was a small child, that he served the Bhaktivedantas, and through that, gradually he became more and more interested, and he started developing attachment to hearing about Krishna, and that led to more faith and complete surrender and initiation and purity and purification of the heart, all of those things. So I would think that I would say that humility results in realization and transfer, like in the transformation of the heart by the mercy of Krishna.
Yeah, okay, so I'm glad you brought up the Bhaktivedantas and Narada Muni, because it just seems like, you know, the reason why I wanted a logical connection is because it does seem a bit mystical, that connection, because here I am, like Narada Muni, let's say I'm serving the Vaishnava their meal when I hear the conches blowing. Maybe I can't continue now. But
Jai, darshan time, dear devotees. Please turn on your cameras and be seen by the Lord. If you can. No pressure. Be seen by the Lord. Ooh.
Jai. Jai.
The virtue of thy spiritual master are the only way in which we can attain universal success. And now, Lord, let's speak to your honor. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of your suffering and obtain the mercy of wish. I only wish to have my life.
attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. Like, I forget what comes next. But anyways, this was the class. Thank you very much for your association, dear devotees. When we live Shrimad Bhagavatam, then naturally we'll have questions, like Gail. She always has a question, and it's always intelligent, pertinent, and very deep. That means that she is firmly situated on the path. Thank you, Gail. Okay, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu is here. He'll take the questions during the afterglow. Jagannath Gopal, open your Google. Get ready to look up shlokas. Okay, Bhima Kaviraj. Bhima. Bhima Prabhu looks like a dark fantasy character.
You get the dark right. I don't know any fantasy. I don't know anything about fantasy. I fantasize about warm weather. That's what I fantasize about. Um, I don't know. It's wild how we talk about humility when, after all, humility is basically just waking up. You know, it's just waking up. There's nothing that we do to become humble. You just wake up to the fact that there is not a blade of grass that you yourself was responsible for, and that the things that we do in this world, all that we can accomplish, all the shlokas we can learn. Now, of course, Krishna has a duty for us to spread his love, and but in regards to humility, it's not a self-denigration. It's not about the self. In fact, if you begin a sentence with "I am so this," then you are definitely off the mark in humility, because you began the sentence with "I am," and aham brahmasmi. I am spirit, but as a spirit, even that fact that we exist is Krishna at work. Just existence itself, brahmasmi. So Prabhu, Jagannath Gopal, I wanted to ask, could you, and this is, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but some shloka that expresses the fact that humility is simply awareness of what is real versus any amount of pride of the things that we do, is ridiculous, because everything, our breath, the cells in our brain which store the information that we repeat, all these things we are simply ad infinitum mediators in, as coming from Krishna, Krishna's wonderful reservoir of strength, beauty, wealth, wisdom, etc. No, you don't. No, you don't. Stop it. So I'm asking the question: Can I get a witness?
So, yeah, I mean, when it comes to humility, the first thing that ever comes to my mind is, of course, Trinadapi Shunichena is the verse that is often quoted in our movement. But this other verse in Bhagavad Gita, which is I quoted the other day also, Krishna is describing knowledge in the Bhagavad Gita, and that knowledge includes even knowledge of the world, how we see the world, and things like that. And that knowledge begins with humility, amanitvam adambhitvam. So it's interesting that I'll actually bring that up. It's interesting that Krishna is mentioning many things over there in that series of verses, but he begins that with humility. So this, he says, humility, pridelessness. So these two things come first. And then he starts mentioning non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of objects of sense gratification. And, it's a big list. The perception of the evil of birth, old age, disease, and death, freedom from entanglement with children, family, home, and the rest, even-mindedness, and so on. But all this, Krishna is following after humility and pridelessness. So that when I contemplate on that, it says something like Krishna could have said some other thing. Krishna could have said, maybe approaching a bona fide spiritual master is the first thing that you need to do. But then he's saying humility. And it makes sense also because without that humility and pridelessness, even if we do approach a spiritual master, we won't be able to get that full potential, the full depth of what the spiritual master has to offer us. That is one verse that definitely comes to. I'll put it on the chat actually, that series of verses. It's very beautiful, and Prabhupada explains each and every quality there. So yeah, it's very beautiful. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. Yeah. Uh, yeah, he goes on to explain. And about humility also, there was Radhanath Maharaj, he had given a class in San Diego. And this is just moving from the verses to, I hope I did some justice to you, Bhima Prabhu, with that.
Yes, obviously, this is the priority. The humility is necessary. You have to empty your cup so that Krishna can fill it. You have to empty your heart so that Krishna can step in. And but I was also looking for along the lines of that concept, Achinta Beta Beta Tattva and Lord Chaitanya, Jeev Jago, Jeev Jago. Now, I believe there was some debate earlier on in the movement, and they called these devotees who said, "Hey, listen, this is just the matrix. This is just a dream." They called them dreamavadis, right? So it's sort of like sometimes that can be used as an excuse not to take anything seriously. So do you have anything to say on that type of thing, that Jeev Jago, Jeev Jago? Could you expand on that so I don't become a dreamavadi?
I'll have to think about it. Though. Yeah. There is one verse, Uttishth Jagrata Prapya Varan Nibodita, Shurasya Dhara Nishita Durataya, Durgam Patasthat Kavayo Vadanti. But that's a different, it says, wake up, Uttishth Jagrata, wake up, and then, go closer to God. And it says the path of spiritual life is Kshurasya Dhara, it's like the sword's edge. So if we are not careful, but that's a different context. But yeah, it does say, yeah. Athato Brahma Jidnyasa is also the aphorism in Vedanta Sutra, the first aphorism of Vedanta Sutra that comes. Athato Brahma Jidnyasa is, now that, so actually, interestingly, Vedanta Sutra is the only scripture that begins with therefore. So begins with the term therefore. Typically, when there is a, thesis involved, you give all the, like you say what has to be said, and then you conclude, therefore, so and so. But then this Vedanta Sutra is very interesting. It starts with a therefore, athato Brahma Jidnyasa. So that therefore is that, now that you've come to a human form of life, now wake up. Now inquire into Brahman, Brahma Jidnyasa. So like that. But yeah, I'll try to look up what Bhima Prabhu mentioned. So I think he got disconnected, I believe. There is one anecdote I wanted to mention. Should I mention that, Prabhu? If that's okay. Anand Bihari Prabhu.
Anecdotes, of course.
So this taught me something about humility actually. So Radhanath Maharaj gave a class in San Diego, and one gentleman in the audience, he asked this question to Maharaj: "What do you do in your free time when you're not spending time in helping others the way you are doing now?" So typically at least I won't have guts to ask someone of Maharaj's stature this question, "What do you do in your free time?" But then this person did ask, and it's interesting what answer Maharaj gave. Maharaj said, "I'm 71 years old, and over the years, I have realized, I've really come to the realization that I am really useless." This is what Maharaj says. Now, what's important is what follows. He says, "But that makes me so happy." because I'm just so grateful for an opportunity to serve in whatever little way I can. So I try my best in my free time to think of ways to serve and try to prepare myself so that I could serve better. When I chant these beautiful mantras, study my guru's books, offer prayers, that's the time when I get nourished and gain strength so that when the opportunity to serve is there, I can really make a difference. So what really hit me is he said, I've come to the realization that I'm useless, but then he says, but that makes me happy because then whatever opportunity to serve comes, I take it. So humility is in that sense something to the tune of I'm not in the center. It's not that I'm nothing, I am something, and that something can be used in Krishna's service. I'm not the center, I'm not everything, but I'm something. I'm not nothing either. And then when we have that genuine thought like that, consciousness like that, we can make most impact. Something I have to learn as well. So, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu. Yeah, we can take one more question from Min and one comment from Gail. One sentence comment from Gail. Min, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. I have a question about, in regards to understanding Krishna's pastimes. We heard that Krishna's pastimes are given to us to maintain the eternal path of religion, which sounds very serious and very heavy. I know it to be true, but I've always also heard Krishna's pastimes to be so sweet and even funny, and all these very pleasant emotions that come when we hear Krishna's pastimes. And I'm just wondering if there's a way we can synthesize this very serious notion of maintenance of eternal path of religion on Krishna's part, giving us the pastimes with this, like, the sweetness that I've never heard before. And I'm asking because there's some pastimes I hear that I can't bring myself to really believe at this point. Not all the pastimes I can just say like, oh my God, that's amazing, I believe it. So I'm wondering if that notion, this serious notion, is necessary for me to really understand deeply, to have more faith in these pastimes. I'm just curious, what is the best way to hear Krishna's pastimes? Thank you.
You want to answer that, Anand Bihari Prabhu?
I'm not sure. I don't have anything good at hand. Maybe, how about maybe Jeffrey Eckler can answer that?
I'm in Maya, Prabhu. What was the question?
Recap, Min. Recap.
It's just, the quality of Krishna's pastimes being so sweet and funny and jovial, coupled with this serious notion that Krishna gives us pastimes to maintain the eternal path of religion. How do I come to hear Krishna's pastimes? It just seems so heavy and serious. And at the moment when I heard it, it almost like it sort of pulled me down a little bit, because I've always heard Krishna's pastime, something that's, wow, that's so amazing, and I want to be there, how
No, I understand. And I heard you say something to the effect of, at this moment, some of them you can't bring yourself to necessarily believe them.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And I fully identify with that. I think that we are called to find ourselves in those pastimes. And as much as the Leela that we read in the sacred texts are something that we are given literally as a gift, as an example, I don't know, and this is personal to me, and maybe you can identify with this, but I don't know that I can find myself in the rasa dance. I don't know that I can find myself in Radha and Krishna's personal intimate pastimes. I can certainly find myself in my daily routine and Krishna's interjections and appearance in that. And so to address kind of the concern or the question, I don't know that I'm ready or capable as Jeff to do that. So what I can do is find Krishna in my pastimes, which may seem selfish and indulgent, but I surely feel him in my life. So if my pastimes are worthy of his influence, then maybe those are the shared pastimes that I can really have with Krishna, because I can appreciate and philosophically assess or let a Leela wash over me and feel the emotional tangential connection to that, but I certainly can't see myself in that pastime. And maybe one day I will, maybe one day I won't, I don't know. But I can surely feel Krishna in my life. So the Leela that I share with Krishna is my Leela. And that is the way that I do that is by understanding the sacred text Leela and seeing the emotions in that and then applying that to me. And that's, I mean, I chose this body. I chose this kind of way of living. And so that's the way that my mind understands it at the moment. And I think that that's the best I can do. Does that help at all?
Yes. I like the part when you said that you let the Leelas watch you, because I think part of my question is like, what is the best way to hear these pastimes, especially the ones I can't really, grasp yet. And yeah, so I like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Min and Jeffrey. Yeah, it's important to draw the line between the Leela and where we are. Otherwise, what's the point? We have our pastimes. Jeffrey Eckler has pastimes, and so does Krishna. Let Krishna have pastimes, and there will be some far out things. We have far out things in our lives. So what to speak of Krishna? Let him have it. It's okay. All right, Krishna. Okay, Gail, let's finish it off. Say something uplifting, intelligent, deep, like you always do.
No, Prabhu. Well, for one thing, thank you for your kind words before. It's something for me to try to live up to. As far as Min's question and Jeffrey's answer, I've been taking a class on a book by Shivaram Swami. The exact, like, I think it has a Sanskrit name, and I don't really recall the name of it. But in English, it basically means qualifications for hearing. And it really addresses Min's concern, because what I've been learning is that, depending upon where we are in our spiritual evolution, we should hear certain pastimes and we should not hear other pastimes. And there are ways in which, even if we do hear certain pastimes, there are ways in which to go about hearing the shastras. So, for example, I think there are like 4 different stages, and I'm not remembering them all, but I think the beginning stage is incidental hearing, which is what we do at the Bhakti Center, right? We just hear the Shastra in a systematic way, just verse after verse, you know. If it's some philosophical Shastra that or verse that we're up to hearing, then we hear that. You know, if we're up to the 10th canto, then we hear that. We don't just, you know, purposely like focus on one type of verse over another. We just hear it as it comes in order. That's called incidental hearing. And so, according to our level of spiritual evolution, we should hear in one way or another. In the beginning, we should hear incidentally, like systematic. And if we understand a pastime or a verse, then we get it. And if we don't, you know, we just move on, you know. And then there's another stage of hearing where we intentionally focus on particular types of pastimes. And then there's another stage where you you do hearing to cultivate a certain mood that is naturally um, servicing within you in a spontaneous way. So my point is that, you know, if we don't really believe, you know, what we are hearing, you know, we don't or understand it. We don't have to worry about it. We just have to just keep moving, keep moving. Same thing with philosophy. Certain aspects of philosophy we'll get, but others we won't just yet. It's but we will, you know, as our spirit as our spirituality develops, you know. It's, you know, you can't expect a person in the first grade to understand what a person in high school or college understands. So it's the same thing with hearing. We just have to just wait on our growth, you know, to like get it, you know. So not to be discouraged. I don't know if I made sense to anybody but myself, but that's, I just tried to repeat what I've understood from this class.
Thank you, Gail. I once heard a pastime where Krishna wrestled Radharani playfully. Am I on that level? Clearly not, but it was fun too. I really appreciated the pastime. So if we can't necessarily draw a direct line, we can at least marvel and appreciate the pastime, right? Hare Krishna, thank you, man. Wonderful questions. You ask very nice questions. Okay, we need a childlike devotee. Oh, Greg is here. Greg, you look childlike. Please say Hare Krishna. Greg is being paid for hearing
Hare
Srimad
Krishna.
Bhagavatam. Thank you, Greg. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, all the devotees on this call and on YouTube, Ki Jai, and everywhere else. In Vrindavan Dham, plain holy, like a Nandi. Ki Jai to you. Nice seeing you. Have a wonderful week. Happy Monday. See you again tomorrow. Srimad Bhagavatam never ends. Questions never end. We'll see each other again tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.